Yeah, civil engineering. So just 1 year of first year you have passed. Now you are entering into the core subjects of civil engineering. Now, today, since it will be an introductory class, mostly whenever I take class, I believe in interaction. So I'll be interacting with you all. I'll pick up someone from this whom I can see and I will ask. To firstly, what is this subject all for? What is the importance of this subject in your civil engineering domain? If you're a civil engineer, you're learning bachelor, so what is the importance of this subject? How come? How come this subject in your course? Valuation, pricing, and contract. How is it important? Anyone? Okay, Tito. Tito, you tell me. You joined first, I think. Tito. Please, what is the importance? The importance of this subject in your civil engineering? This valuation, pricing, contract.
Sir, we have to do a lot of contracts, I think, in the future, and we have to know the building's pricing and all. I guess. I'm
Okay,
not sure.
so to all of you, I think you read newspaper. So when you read newspaper, I think have you seen some tender notice, something comes out in the newspaper every day, maybe one day gap, some tender notices. Whenever a particular job, a huge project is sanctioned, mostly if you consider the project outline, the three major streams which always seem to be involved with the project are your electrical, mechanical, and civil. These are the three core streams which are involved with any infrastructural projects. So whenever, for example, say I'm citing an example, a practical example, so that you will understand. Now, to all of you, whenever I will be discussing taking this class, 4 class, 5 class, or 6 class, which I will take, I will take the class from the practical point of view. I will try to explain how the subject is weighted when you will be acting as a civil engineer if you happen to work inside. Okay, so I think this is clear. I think you will accept this, right? Hello, to all of you. Bookish knowledge is important, but you need to know how this is implemented. Hello. কি ঠিক তো সবাই উঠতে চাও তো নাকি?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm taking a very practical example. Just after dropping this class, you will go through the net. For example, Government of West Bengal. Government of West Bengal has a huge project, nearly 6,000 crore, 6,000 koti taka. It is sanctioned, it is going to be sanctioned in the states of Bankura, Birbhum, and Purulia. Now, when the government sanctions a project, you know that the government has got different wings. For example, one of the wings happens to be our irrigation department. Have you heard of it, irrigation department? Another wing happens to be PWD. If it is under the central jurisdiction, we call it the CPWD. Another wing happens to be the Public Health Engineering Department, PhD domain. Now, at present, if you consider, after this class, if you just type, what are the major civil engineering projects which are being sanctioned all across India, not only in West Bengal, you will find that they are mostly your water distribution, water supply, sewerage, mostly your water projects, different projects which have been sanctioned by the central government, and some projects related to transportation engineering. Very less projects related to your structure, and a few related to your soil, geotechnical. Now, so when government sanctions or it has a project in mind, then definitely there is a particular department of government which happens to be involved with that. So whenever I am speaking of these projects, which are very practical and which are coming up, these projects are all under your Public Health Engineering Department domain, PhD. Now, if you consider the West Bengal part, then it is your WB PhD. If you consider the central, then it is your CPhD. Now, this Public Health Engineering Department, the government, it doesn't have all the resources, definitely, to take up this huge project. So what it does is that initially for the project, এখনো তো সবাই জয়েন করে যাচ্ছে, কি করি বলতো এরকম।
Yes, sir.
Okay, so my two persons have left, Mayank Kumar and I think someone else. Okay, Abhishek Shaw has left. Okay. So what I was saying is that for this particular project, which is upcoming also, so it is falling under the jurisdiction of your public health engineering department, and the public health engineering department to tackle this huge project, it definitely or obviously doesn't have such a huge resource. So what it does is that for the particular project which is defined already, they initially fix up the cost of this project, whichever I am saying, by means of something which we call a pre-bid tender. Mark the word pre-bid tender. PRE, pre-bid tender. So the different parts of the different components of the project, they are analyzed and they fix up the cost and they fix up a document which we call a pre-bid tender. The different design aspects, the different attributes of the project are entered in the form of a particular report which is very important for all of you, any civil engineer. It is called a DPR, Detailed Project Report. They do that. Okay? So now what is done? So they already have this pre-bid tender. They have already fixed up that, okay, this project is something around about 5,000 crore. Now internally, the government wing, it knows the cost of the project. Is this clear? Projector cost সম্বন্ধে, the government wing, they know what is the tentative cost of the project. Now they float something which we call a tender. Is it clear? In the tender, what is mentioned? It is the different jobs which are to be done, the scope of work. This is very important. This is a very important term which all of you should know in a civil engineer. This is called scope of work. The scope of work is clearly defined in the tender. What is other things which are mentioned in the tender? The different works, the different materials. কি ধরনের rod use করতে হবে তোমাদের? If you are going for a water supply project, the different pipes, the pipe materials, the diameter of the pipes, these are all mentioned in a tender. Am I clear? এটা বোঝা গেল? Is it understood to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I will show you a live tender. সেগুলো আমি দেখাবো পরের দিন। একদম practical tender I will show you how a tender looks like. তোমরা যেটা করবে পরীক্ষার জন্য, that is something bookish, বই থেকে করবে, কিন্তু how actually a tender looks like, যেটা বেসিসে আমরা কাজ করি, that I will show you how a tender looks like. So all these things are clearly defined in the tender. You have to use the GI pipe, you have to use HDP pipe, you have to use a pipe of diameter 450 millimeter, for example. You have to use a pipe of diameter 500 millimeter. This pipe should have a length of 30 kilometer. এইখান থেকে এই পাইপটা লে করবে, this should have a length of 40 kilometer. So these things are all mentioned in the tender. এগুলো সব মেনশন করা থাকে। Now once the tender is floated, what happens? They invite bidding. They invite what we call bidding. For example, any one of you stays in Bankura here? কেউ আছো কিনা বাঁকুড়ার? এই যে গ্রুপে আছো? So Anik Dandapad, Debojyoti Chatterjee, do you know the area Taldangra?
হ্যাঁ স্যার,
ওখানে পাইপলাইনের কাজ হচ্ছে না?
হ্যাঁ স্যার চলছে,
প্রচুর কাজ চলছে তো ওয়াটার ডিস্ট্রিবিউশনের বাঁকুড়াতে। এই যে জিনিসগুলো তালডাংরার টেন্ডারটা আমি তোমাকে দেখাবো, আই উইল শেয়ার সবাইকে। সো এই যে যেটা বলছি, এই কাজগুলো কিন্তু অল আর বিং ডান। কে করছে ওখানে কাজ? লাসেন টুবলো তো?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, এলএনটি করছে।
এলএনটি করছে, গুড, একদম। এলএনটি একটা পেটে আমরা আছি। সো আচ্ছা, মিউট করো। সো নাও এই যে যেটা বললাম, এই যে কাজ বিভিন্ন জায়গায় যেগুলো হচ্ছে, হোয়াট এভার দ্য জবস হ্যাভ বিন ডান, সো দে আর নাও ডান উইথ রেসপেক্ট টু দ্য টেন্ডার। Now, all these things mentioned in the tender, what is done next? They invite bidding, or they invite what we call quotation. They invite quotation. Quotation from whom? From companies which, this is very important, from companies, if it is a 5,000 crore project where payments have to be made in different phases, এটা ভালো করে মন দিয়ে শোনো, where payments are to be released or made in different phases, companies which are not only competent from the design point of view or from the execution point of view, but at the same time, companies which have enough financial asset to be initially invested somewhat in the form of something which we call security deposit, will get the project, or will not get the project, will be able to quote. Is this clear? So that is why, if you
Can you
look,
repeat once, sir?
companies which are not only competent from the design point of view or from the execution point of view, but at the same time companies which have got enough financial asset, that is financially they are strong, so that a certain percentage of the total cost of the project initially needs to be invested by the company or to be kept by the company as security deposit, will be able to quote for the project. Is it clear now? I was very specific.
স্যার সেটার কি কোনো পার্সেন্টেজ আছে যে সিকিউরিটি ডিপোজিট?
অবশ্যই পার্সেন্টেজ, ডেফিনেটলি পার্সেন্টেজ আছে, 3%, 4%, 5%, এটা ভ্যারি করে, ইট ভ্যারিজ। যে কোয়েশ্চেনটা বলো কার্তিক, হ্যাঁ কার্তিক, দিস ভ্যারিজ, দিস ডেফিনেটলি ভ্যারিজ ফ্রম প্রজেক্ট টু প্রজেক্ট, বাট দেয়ার ইজ এ সার্টেন পার্সেন্টেজ। এবং তুমি বুঝতেই পারছো, একটা যদি 5,000 কোটি টাকার প্রজেক্ট হয়, রামশ্যাম যদুমধু ক্যানট কোট ফর দ্য প্রজেক্ট বিকজ দে ডু নট হ্যাভ দ্য ফিনান্সিয়াল রিসোর্স। Am I clear? যদি প্রজেক্টটা পেয়ে যায়, then they have to keep that money as a security deposit. Okay, they have to keep it as security deposit. That is why in the different projects which are being in progress or which are happening in different parts of the country, you will find that only the big giants like Larsen Toubro, like Nagarjuna Construction, like Jindal Infrastructure Water Limited, these are the some names I have named, like WAPCOS. These are the few firms which are participating. হাসিটা ঢেকে করো, কি করছো ভাই? Operating. Now, what I was is that for the tender, all the details are mentioned. এবার টেন্ডারে সবকিছু মেনশন করে the company মানে গভর্নমেন্ট or PHED, it invites quotation. এবার কোটেশনে কি হবে? Now quotation the different companies, like for example, আমি Larsen Toubro বলছি, let us forget the name. For example, 3 companies ABC are now quoting. They are quoting for the project. They are quoting for the project, keeping in mind that they have the financial resources to be kept as security deposit when they are quoting, if they get the project, and at the same time, they also have the credentials, the design or the technical credentials. Okay. Now, who will get the project? The project will be given to one which has the least quote. The concept of what we call L1 or the lowest quotation, L1, is given the job. Am I right? Am I clear? বোঝা গেল? The company which quotes the least will be given the job. Clear? Hello? Is it clear? Now, তাহলে আমরা টেন্ডারটা বুঝলাম. Definitely we'll go into the details in the next classes, its introduction. So what is a tender now we understand, and what is a quotation now we understand. Now what are the things which are to be mentioned in the quotation? Any idea? তুমি একটা সিভিল ইঞ্জিনিয়ার, তুমি সাইটে গেলে তোমার কোম্পানি কোটেশন করছে, তো তোমাকে একটা দায়িত্ব দিল যে বাবু তুমি কোটেশনটা বানিয়ে দাও। তো তুমি কি করবে? What will you do if you are to submit a quotation with respect to a tender? Tender every details are mentioned. All the details are mentioned in the tender. যে তোমাকে you have to do this, you have to supply this, you have to maintain these qualities, and all those things are mentioned. So when you supply a quotation with respect to a tender, it is simply question and answer form. You have to abide by whatever the clauses are there in the tender, and you have to furnish that you will be providing this, you will be able to do this, you will be able to complete the job within the stipulated period, and if you fail to do that, then definitely there will be some penalty, which can be in terms of financial, or which can be in terms of you being debarred from given the responsibility to complete the remaining part of the job also. So these things will be there. Now, so once you give the quotation and you are selected, then what comes? What comes into play? এবার কি হবে? To all of you. এই তো tender quoted হয়েছে, tender floated হয়েছে, tender has been floated. Some parties ABC have quoted for the job. ABC এর মধ্যে, let us suppose that B has got the job. Now what will happen? Any idea? What will happen? বলো।
যে টেন্ডারটা সবথেকে মানে কোয়ালিটিও ভালো হবে আর টাকার দিক থেকেও ঠিকঠাক লাগবে, সেটা কি ওরা মানে প্রজেক্ট চুজ করে নেবে?
না, এবার কি হবে? ওকে, তুমি B party has got the job. Now what will you do? এবার তোমাদের সাবজেক্ট আসছে, what will you do? Now when the
ডকুমেন্ট সাবমিট করতে হবে
না, টেন্ডারটা ফ্লোটেড হয়েছে, টেন্ডারটা কাগজেই বেরোয়, তুমি দেখবে কাগজে বেরোয়, বা গভর্নমেন্টের সাইটে যদি যাও তাহলে তুমি দেখবে প্রকিউরমেন্ট টেন্ডার বলে একটা সাইট আছে, টেন্ডার।
স্যার কন্ট্রাক্ট সাইন হবে।
রাইট, সেটাই আমি জানতে চাইছিলাম। সো নাও what comes into play is your contract. So this is the importance. What is important? This is the importance of your contract now in civil engineering. So now you being a civil engineer or your firm has got the job, now your government of West Bengal or the public health engineering department or VCD, whatever the department is, after you have been allotted the job, the party being B and the government wing will now enter into a contract. There will be a contractual agreement between the direct government wing and the contractor firm. Am I clear? So in the contract agreement, there will be different clauses mentioned now. And in conjunction, that means with both the parties. Both the parties means the major contractor firm. Why I am saying major contractor firm? Because whenever a major contractor firm means, for example, L&T, it is working in the district of Bakura, Purulia, Birbhum, definitely again, it has to, technically the term being your sublet. It has to sublet the job. That means ওরাও কি করে, ওরাও কিছু কাজগুলো আবার ছোট ফার্মকে দিয়ে দেয়। Is it clear? Outsourcing, is it clear? So that means the major binding agreement happens to be with the government and the major contractor firm. So there are some clauses mentioned, and both the parties agreeing to the contract, they enter into the job. When the major contractor firm enters into the job, now it defines its own modus operandi or mode of operation. It defines its own modus operandi or mode of operation, because the major contractor firm has to earn some profit. Profit is something which we all want to share. So the major contractor firm যে কাজটা করতে চলেছে, now what it will do is that it will sublet the portion, the different parts of the work. Some part it may do it own self, but some parts it sublets to other small firms at a lesser price, so that there is some profit ensured from it. And to the smaller firms which it sublets the job, it enters into another contract with them. Keeping one thing constant. What is that? বুঝতে পারলে কিনা দেখি কি বললাম। প্রথমে major contractor firm contractor, it has entered with the government wing. Now the major contractor firm, it does some portion of the job itself. It sublets, the outsources some portion of the job to some smaller firms, entering into contract with all of them, but keeping one thing in constant. What is that? কোন জিনিসটা constant?
Specification of work.
Right. The tender specification. The tender specification cannot be violated at any point of time. The tender specification which has been fixed up by the government wing, it should remain constant not only with the major contractor firm, it should also remain constant with all the small firms which are working under the major contractor firm. Is it clear? There cannot be any amendment of the tender specifications. If at all some amendments are to be made, then it has to be routed through proper channel. Is it clear? বোঝা গেল? Is it clear? এই সারাক্ষণ ধরে যদি সবাই অ্যাডমিট করতে হয় তাহলে তো খুব মুশকিল। ক্লাসটা আমি 11টায় দিয়েছি, এখন 11:25 আমাকে অ্যাডমিট করে দিতে হচ্ছে কি? Is this clear now? এটা বোঝা গেল? So this is the basic thing about your contract. This is the basic thing about your contract. Now the other two terms in your subject happen to be your valuation and pricing. Valuation and pricing. This is an introductory class, I'm again repeating, because there are different types of contract. What are the conditions of a contract? These are all your theoretical aspects, which we'll take up next class, one by one. What are the different steps which are involved in inviting a tender? What do we mean by a tender document? Okay. When does a contract become null and void? So what are the different types of contract? Item rate contract, unit price contract. So these things all will enter in the next class. But I wanted to explain what is meant by a contract and how it is done. Now once you drop this class, if you go through the net, if you go through the recent projects, you type about the tender documents, now these things will be clear to you. You will understand that what I have said, how it is being done, the mode of operation. Now regarding the other two terms, your pricing and valuation. So how are they related to civil engineering? What is valuation? What we value? What is the where we go for valuation? For example, your building, wherever you are staying, wherever I am staying, any
different construction elements, sir. Valuation means?
Valuation means if you want to find out, segregate the different construction elements, then it is not possible, because whatever mathematical equations which we have in order to value a property, it is based upon a concrete thing, the total thing. For example, when we speak of a building, the attribute that we take into consideration is the age of the building. We do not take into consideration the concrete deterioration, the rod deterioration, not the building property deterioration, but we measure those deteriorations in terms of your age. That with age, there is some depreciation of anything, any property, it undergoes depreciation with age, right? But if you want to value a plot of land, then this becomes a slightly in the opposite sense, because initially some areas, for example, you also know, in some areas, and for example, let us take the example of Rajarhat, Mukundapur, Kalikapur, the wetland areas. I think you have seen or you've heard of these areas. Barakpur, Mukundapur, I think you have heard of these areas. শুনেছো তো এগুলো, জায়গাগুলো, রাজারহাটের wetland area গুলো. So initially when I was small, তোমরা হয়তো তখন জন্মাওনি, when I was small, so at that time those areas people don't even dare to live there. So the value of those plot of lands was practically very, very less, unimaginable. It was so low. Now if you want to buy a plot of land in, for example, Rajarhat, it is like a hot cake. Right? I think you understand? কি ঠিক তো? Hello? So এবার তুমি উল্টো দিক থেকে ভাবো। Once you have purchased a plot of land in Rajarhat, which is now a very high value compared to when I was speaking of my age. Now if you construct a building there, একটা বাড়ি তৈরি করলে, বাড়িটা যখন plot of land তৈরি হয়ে গেল, তখন কিন্তু এবার 25 বছর পর যদি if you want to sell that building, then it will undergo some depreciation. Then the cost will not be so much. Am I clear? বোঝা গেল? So জমি, plot of land and building, their costs, they are, what should I say, they are inversely proportional to a certain extent. Am I clear? বোঝা গেল? Is it understood? Is it understood?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if you speak of your Jadavpur area, if you speak of Jadavpur, I have said that they are inversely proportional to a certain extent. To a certain extent is very important, because if you again consider Jadavpur University or Jadavpur area, there if you construct a building now, and if you want to sell it after 20 years, it will cost more. it will cost more. Because the plot of the land, definitely it has increased, but to add up with it, there's the surrounding amenities, the facilities, the amenities. I think you understand. The facilities, amenities means the transport sector, or rather not the transport sector, the transport connections. Okay. So if they are increasing or they have improved, then it will overweigh the depreciation which the building will have in the subsequent years. Am I clear? Is this clear? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So so this valuation of a building, definitely when you will do the problem in your examination, you will follow as the bookish knowledge goes a simple formula and you will value a plot of land. But if you are a true civil engineer, if some gives you a building to value, to evaluate, then you have to not only use the equations, but you have to keep all these things in mind, and then only you can be a true valuer. So this valuer, whatever I am saying, this is a separate line of civil engineering. They are what we call chartered civil engineers or chartered valuers. This is a totally separate wing of civil engineering, and the people who act as valuers, they have their own certificates appreciated or rather obtained from the government, okay, Institute of Valuers. Then they only are eligible for valuing a property. আমাদের যদি দেয় কেউ, আমরা কিন্তু হট করে we cannot value a property. আমাদের valuation যদি আমরা কোনো report দিই, then it will not be accepted. For the particular thing to be accepted, it has to be only signed by a chartered valuer who has got a certificate from the Institute of Valuers. Am I clear? But you being civil engineers, and my job will be to simply show how to value a plot of land, what are the basic equations. So these things we will study in the subsequent classes. So how a property or a building undergoes depreciation, what are the different methods that we apply. For example, the sinking fund method, which is also applicable in terms of share. When you invest in shares in banking sector, the same method, the sinking fund method, is prevalent there also when we invest in shares. So these things I will teach you. The mathematical portions I will teach you for how to value a plot of land, okay, and how to value a building also apart from the plot of land. But my advice to all of you is that if you want to truly value a plot of land, then not only go by the equations, whatever I have said, keep these things in mind. Then only you will be truly evaluating a land. Okay. Now, what do you suggest that henceforth the next classes when I am taking, since there will be two portions. One will be your theoretical aspects. The theoretical aspects will be mostly confined to your contract, tender, all those things will fall under your theoretical purview. And the remaining portions, that is your depreciation, sinking fund method, land building method of valuation. So these will all have a mathematical part attached to it. So তোমরা কোনটা করতে চাও আগে? So it's an open question to all of you. Since they are two separate parts, so we will not mix them up together. We will first take up, say, what do you suggest? তোমরা আগে অঙ্ক চাও না আগে theory? What do you suggest? It's up to you. সেভাবে নেক্সট দিন থেকে বানাবো।
মানে ম্যাথমেটিক্যাল হলে বেশি ইন্টারেস্টিং হবে, থিওরিটিক্যালটা
তাহলে একটা কাজ করি, পরের দিন থেকে আমরা তাহলে we start with valuation first. What do you suggest? Valuation. So that will be mathematical. If we speak of valuation, then I will share my screen. I'll show you how to do it, and definitely I will give the notes to all of you. Then we will go through it. Okay. So maybe before the class itself, I can also give the notes to the two mail IDs which I've got. I will share the notes with you so that you can have the notes with you when I share the screen. That will be easier. Okay. Ki bolo? That will be acceptable now? Hello. Ki tomra ki chao?
Yes, sir.
আরে কেউ কিছু বলো? হ্যাঁ, সেটা বেটার হয় তো। তাহলে নেক্সট ক্লাসের আগে আমি যেটা করবো, তোমাদের আগেই আমি নোটসটা দিয়ে দেবো, যেটা আমি ডিল করবো। এবং we are starting with the mathematics first. So we are starting with the valuation component first. আরেকটা কথা সবাইকে বলে রাখি, I was speaking to Pratyay that so this class we will be very much flexible because maybe not all Saturdays আমি পারবো না নিতে, হয়তো পারবো না। সো সেক্ষেত্রে if we have some convenient time on weekdays, I'll speak up with Pratyay. He will intimate to you all that if sir is free and you all are free, then we can have the class at on some weekdays also. Okay, so I think this is not a problem. কি তোমাদের কি অসুবিধা নেই তো weekdays যদি কোনো দিন হয়? হ্যালো,
না স্যার,
সেটা যেহেতু কারণ প্রত্যেক শনিবার দিনটা আমি হয়তো পারবো না, সিন্স আই এম বিজি, আমাকে সাইটে যেতে হয়, সো মেবি আই উইল বি নট অ্যাভেলেবল অন এভরি স্যাটারডে। ওকে, সো আমরা তাহলে আজকে ইন্ট্রোডাকশন যেটা ছিল তাহলে আমার বলার, সেটা আই থিঙ্ক ইউ হ্যাভ আন্ডারস্টুড নাও আ লিটল বিট হোয়াট ইজ আ টেন্ডার, হোয়াট ইজ আ কন্ট্রাক্ট, হাউ দ্য জব ইজ বিং ডান। ঠিক আছে, উইল এন্টার ইনটু দ্য ডিটেইলস লেটার। What is normally meant by valuation, and what is what we value? What we value, a plot of land, a building, these are the things which we value. And what are the different factors which we value? For example, একটা জিনিস তোমাদের বলে শেষ করবো, সেটা হচ্ছে if you consider your Jadavpur University gate number for example 2, gate number 2 দিয়ে ঢুকলেই প্রথম কি বিল্ডিংটা পাও? the School of Energy Studies, right? ঠিক তো? তারপরে কি থাকে? School of Energy Studies কি? হ্যাঁ, ঠিক না ঢুকে গেট নাম্বার 2 দিয়ে what is the building that you see? Get তারপরে কি যায়? তারপরে সোজা গেলে স্কুল ইলেকট্রিক্যাল ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং, ঠিক তো? তারপরে অরবিন্দ ভবন, then you get the chemical engineering department, right? I am speaking of the straight portion.
Yes sir.
Okay, ধরে নাও 4টা বিল্ডিং আছে। one is your School of Energy Studies, one is your electrical energy, অরবিন্দ ভবন হচ্ছে বিল্ডিং 3, আর কেমিক্যাল ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং ডিপার্টমেন্ট হচ্ছে বিল্ডিং 4। তুমি you are a developer. Who is a developer? I mentioned the word developer. Developer কাকে বলে? Who is a developer? Any idea? Developer কাকে বলে? I have mentioned the word developer. I have not mentioned contractor. I have mentioned the word developer. Who is a developer?
সাইট এক্সিকিউশনে যে ইঞ্জিনিয়ার থাকে সে,
তাকে ডেভেলপার বলি? ভেবে গেল। Name some top-notch developers in our country, in our state. Top-notch developers. Have you heard of Bengal Ambuja? You have heard of Bengal Ambuja project manager? Bengal Ambuja. Have you heard of PS Srijan? Srijan Group. PS Srijan. এগুলো তোমাকে জানতে হবে। You are all civil engineers, because developer is one who develops the property. South City, who has been developed by Ahluwalia. Okay, so developers are big firms which has got a blend, that means a mixture of not only civil engineers working under them, but to a larger extent architectural engineers working with them. Am I clear? Developer হচ্ছে যারা প্রপার্টিটাকে ডেভেলপ করে। এবার ডেভেলপাররা কি করে? প্রপার্টিটাকে ডেভেলপ করে they sell. When you go through the newspaper, you will find big developers like Bengal Peerless is a developer. Have you heard of Bengal Peerless? Bengal Peerless is a developer. PS Srijan is a developer. Srijan Group, MK Realtors is a developer.
মানে স্যার এক কথায় কন্ট্রাক্টর।
ওটা লুসিড টার্মে তুমি বলতে পারো, কিন্তু কন্ট্রাক্টর সবাই নয়। PS Srijan is not a contractor. PS Srijan is a developer. কন্ট্রাক্টর আমরা তখন
যদি ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং এর সাথে থাকে তাহলে ওটাকে ডেভেলপার বলবো।
একদম, কারণ তুমি যদি প্রপার্টিকে বড়ভাবে বেচতে চাও, নর্মালি তোমার ছোট বিল্ডিং এর কথা বলছি না, বড় প্রজেক্টস, যেরকম ফর এক্সাম্পল সাউথ সিটি প্রজেক্ট, সেটা কিন্তু শুধু সিভিল ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং দিয়ে ইট উইল নট হ্যাপেন। It will not be totally civil engineering oriented, because there you need to have a good, what should I say, show also. But not only design is going to account for the selling of your South City properties. It has to be given some attractive look. That attractive look is not given by civil engineers. Civil engineers, they are very rugged. They only go by the code, the IS code, and they will design whether it is safe or not. Am I clear? But to make it more attractive, the nooks and corners, there comes the role of your architecture. Okay? So a combination of these two, both of these two, is what we ultimately get these huge projects to be developed. Am I clear? Is this clear, Gustav? Is this clear? তাহলে এবার আমি বলছি যে তুমি যদি একটা ডেভেলপার হও, তাহলে এই যে তুমি 4টি বিল্ডিং তৈরি করে ফেলেছো, তুমি কোনটার জন্য সব থেকে বেশি দাম রাখবে ভেবে বলো। ধরো একটার জন্য 10 টাকা, একটা 20 টাকা, একটা 30 টাকা, একটা 40 টাকা। 10 টাকাটা কার জন্য রাখবে আর কেই বা তোমায় দেবে? কেন দেবে?
যেটা বেশি অ্যাট্রাকটিভ হবে সেটাই তো।
না, আমি 4টি বিল্ডিং বলছি।
সব থেকে বেশি দামি যাবে, কারণ ওটা লুকসও ভালো আর মানে
আচ্ছা, আমি এই ক্ষেত্রে লুকসটাকে পুরো কাটিয়ে দিলাম। এটা
হবে
একদম
রাস্তার উপরে আর তারপরে হচ্ছে যেটা হচ্ছে আবার
সাইডে যেটা থাকবে।
তাহলে এটা কি হলো? এই যে টার্মটা এখানে তুমি যে সবাই বলতে থাকছো এখন রাস্তার ধারে, এটাই হচ্ছে ফ্রন্টেজ। তোমরা যদি ভ্যালুয়েশনে আসো, টেকনিক্যাল টার্ম, দিস ইজ ফ্রন্টেজ। আর এই যে একদম ভেতরে ঢুকে গেছে কেমিক্যাল ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং, ওটা হচ্ছে একদম পিছনের দিকে। দ্যাট মিনস ডেপথ অফ দ্য প্লট একদম পিছনের দিকে রয়ে গেছে, ওটা পিছনের সারিতে, 4th রো। এম আই ক্লিয়ার? বুঝে গেল? তার মানে ফ্রন্টেজ এই টার্মটা চলে আসলো, এই যে রাস্তার ধারে ধারে করছিলে অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি নিয়ে, দ্য টার্ম ইজ নাথিং বাট ইউর ফ্রন্টেজ। যেটা ফ্রন্টেজটা তুমি রোড মেজর রোডে পাবে, এটা মেজর রোড। যাদব ইউনিভার্সিটির সামনে তুমি গেটটা দিয়ে ঢুকছো, সেটা মেজর রোড, ঠিক আছে? এটা কোনো সার্ভিস রোড নয়। সার্ভিস রোড হলে তুমি তখন ওই লুকস বলে যে ব্যাপারটা বলছিলে সেটা আউটওয়ে করতে পারতো, কিন্তু যেহেতু তুমি এখানে একটা মেজর রোডের সামনে একদম প্রথম বিল্ডিংটা পাচ্ছ, সেই জন্য তুমি ওটার দাম বেশি রাখবে, এবং তুমি স্বাভাবিকভাবে ওটার দাম বেশি রাখলে ওটার দাম বেশি পাবেও। লোকেও যখন কিনবে, ক্রেতা যারা, the clients will also give you more money to buy that particular flat or building, whatever. Okay. We will enter into these details when we evaluate the property in the mathematics class. Next class in the land building method of valuation, we'll start with where we are ending now. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.